ministerial panel coming up, which means that the microphones are very much going to have a busy next 25, 30 minutes. If you have questions for a minister that is on point, and I will decide it is on point, please stand at the microphone and then I will know to come to you. We have a microphone here, we have a microphone here. The ministers will be talking about the public investment that is currently working for smallholder financing for the farmers. You will hear from calling ministers up on stage, and please be seated in just a moment. I will wait for the name tags to go out. All right, the name tags are ready. Minister Hamza, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development for the Central African Republic. Welcome, Minister. Please take a seat with your name tag right there. Minister of Agriculture for Eswatini. You're very welcome. Please join us on stage. Senator is the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture and Livestock Development in the Republic of Kenya. Cabinet Secretary. Minister Gary, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security in Nigeria. Morning. And Minister Batraka, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security for Sierra Leone. So, Ministers, we are discussing current results for the private investment and the public investment that you are spearheading in your country that will help smallholder farmers. That is the plan for this conversation. But current results, our audience here will ask you questions, but I'm going to get through to see what you want to share with us first of all. Minister Hamza, Central African Republic, en français. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Madame le modérateur. La République centrafricaine, c'est un territoire de 623 000 km², avec 70% de sa population active dans le domaine agricole. Et le domaine agricole présente 80% des revenus. C'est pourquoi nous disons que le secteur agricole est considéré comme le pilier de l'économie nationale. Et par rapport à les multiples crises qui ont connu ce pays, le gouvernement, pour son retour au relèvement, a bénéficié de l'appui de la Banque africaine de développement, notre banque, qui a drainé quatre grands projets, et ce sont ces grands projets qui ont donné le goût de l'agriculture pendant la crise, le goût de l'agriculture aux petits exploitants des organisations agricoles qui étaient presque inexistants vis-à-vis de la crise. Et aujourd'hui, on se réjouit avec la potentialité agricole de la République centrafricaine. Les petits exploits agricoles nourrissent les 6 millions d'habitants de la population. Et c'est le grand problème, c'est l'investissement, comme vous le dites, d'abord au niveau national, les plans qui ont été déjà depuis Malabo en passant par Kampala n'ont pas été respectés, que les financements nationaux ne viennent pratiquement pas. En dehors de cela, le secteur privé est presque inexistant dans mon pays, la République centrafricaine, et beaucoup plus dans le domaine agricole sont presque inexistants. Avec l'appui de la Banque africaine de développement, nous avons mis en place la Chambre d'agriculture et de tourisme qui aujourd'hui formalise les petits exploitants en les regroupant en coopératives, et ce qui marche aujourd'hui quand même bien. Et les coopératives aujourd'hui, avec le business plan et puis ouvrir les comptes au niveau de banque, nous avons eu l'expérience qu'il y a une coopérative dans une préfecture qui a fait des centaines de tonnes d'haricots Et ça, c'est l'appui de la Banque africaine de développement qui a fait propulser cette coopérative. Et vu le moyen mobilisé par cette coopérative aujourd'hui dans toutes les préfectures, les gens courent de l'arrière-pays pour venir à Bangui s'inscrire au niveau de la Chambre d'agriculture et commerce, ouvrir leur compte, avoir des business plans pour bénéficier de ces financements. Et cette coopérative a fait un chiffre d'affaires d'1,2 milliard et ce qui a été impressionné pour que les autres petits exploitants se regroupent maintenant en coopérative. Voilà succinctement ce que je pourrais dire.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Minister of Agriculture for Eswatini, what would you like to highlight? Current results.
Thank you, Program Director. And, okay. I was going to start off by checking how much time I have.
That 26 minutes is not all for you, Minister.
So how much?
We are going to share it in the spirit of collaboration.
Okay, being what, 5 of us here, so it means it's about 5 minutes from me.
Okay. Well, I would say more like 3, and then we share it with the conference. But let us not haggle over minutes, as it takes minutes away from your time.
Thank you. No, I was just, anyway. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge the people in the Kingdom of Kenya for hosting this event. Secondly, then also acknowledge the African Development Bank for the sterling work that they are doing. I think I'll start with a question so that if I do have a bit of time, I can go to the other issues, because that's why I wanted to get a sense of timing. The question is, what are we doing? Firstly, I must say that in our country, about 72% of farmers are rural farmers. And therefore, we pay particular attention to them to make sure that we are able to support them so that we are able to achieve food sovereignty. One of the biggest things that we're doing is what we call a subsidy for our staple food. So we give the farmers 50% of the inputs, and they come up with the balance. And then we target at least 1 hectare of land to be found so that we produce maize and beans. And it's been working for us. Unfortunately, the funding that we have is limited, being not a huge economy. But the other thing that I'd like to share with this meeting is that we've had the assistance of the African Development Bank to build one of the largest dams in the country. That dam is currently under construction, and we must appreciate the African Development Bank for supporting us in that regard. And it's targeting specifically the smallholder farmer. None of the lands that will be irrigated will be for big commercial farmers. We've taken land from the rural people, and we are going to provide water for them so that they are able to irrigate and secure their crops. The reason we're doing that is because we are fully aware that climate change is with us and it's not going to go away. So therefore, we need to fortify our agro-systems so that we are able to make sure that we secure our production. The area that is going to be under command is 30,000 hectares, and we'll be farming mainly our staple diet and then some cash crops. But we will also then go into what we call an eco-city. So it's a holistic approach, whereby we also then develop downstream industries and support industries. So we are excited about that program. If I can take 2 minutes of your time, I would like to make some comments on the issues that have been presented hitherto. Firstly, we are worried as a country about the size of the financing gap. We believe that we should do something about it, especially because we know recent developments in the world have indicated that Africa needs to look within Africa to be able to support our programs. We cannot rely on the outside world anymore. We need to stand up on our own. I also would like to us, especially the people who are just sitting here, to look at a common monetary system for us so that you are able to move money across countries within the continent, and that is very important. So I think at the risk of eating other people's time, let me stop there.
All right, thank you. Minister, I will get to those questions. You gave us 2 good questions to start off the question section with. But first, I'm going to go to Cabinet Secretary Kagwe. And when I asked the Cabinet Secretary, what is the most important current result you want to share with our conference? 2 words, fertilizer subsidy. Why did you choose that?
Okay, can you hear me? Because I was having a bit of a problem earlier on, so I'm hoping that you're not having the same problem. Okay, thank you. I think the first thing to appreciate for the entire room, even as we answer the question, is what is in the interest of the farmer. That's the beginning point. The beginning and the ending point is what is in the interest. What is the farmer going through on daily basis, and what do they need in order for us to make interventions that are creditworthy, that are worth it. And for us, the reason why we decided to go for subsidized fertilizer is because that's what the farmer says. That's what the farmer says that they want. You know, and I think that one of the reasons for failures of intervention is that we make the interventions that we want to make. We sit in Nairobi or Rome or any other capital and decide what we want to do for the farmer. You don't know what the farmer wants. Go to the farmer and they'll tell you exactly what they want, and they want fertilizers. So fertilizer intervention and subsidized fertilizer impacts the farmer directly. That's why when I was making my remarks, I spoke about the other issue that we are dealing with and emphasizing on is soil analysis, analyzing the soil to know what sort of fertilizers we ought to be subsidizing. If you give subsidies for fertilizer and you give subsidies for seeds, which is the other thing that we are working on, and you know what the soil deserves, you can be able to increase productivity. Without that small intervention at the soils, as the fertilizer, as the seed, all the other discussions regarding value adding, independence of food, food security, nutrition, the works. It's not a real discussion until the farmer is producing more. So for me, the fertilizer subsidy intervention has been crucial, and it is based on a policy shift. Don't subsidize consumption, subsidize production. And if you subsidize production, then you get a lot more, and the challenges are much less than if you subsidize consumption. The impact has been actually so impactful. It's been so successful that for the first time in a long time, Kenya is not going to import sugar just because of that subsidy. We are not going to import maize just because of that subsidy. We have reduced the amount of rice that we are importing because of that subsidy. And you can imagine the foreign exchange impact on the lack of these subsidies. So moving forward, we want to increase this. Having said that, let me also point out that the financial sector, particularly the bilateral and multilateral financial sector, has also been telling us that we ought not to be subsidizing. We ought not to be subsidizing this farmer or the other farmer. Now, we are all aware that farmers cannot actually exist without government intervention and subsidy. A French cow, I am told, lives on $2 per day. It is subsidized to the extension of $2 per day. We are just subsidizing a bag of fertilizer. Give us a break. That's what it is going to take. Thank you.
Minister Kiari, I would like you to speak about infrastructure development that you're doing in Nigeria that will help smallholder farmers. Current results. What can you share with us?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you everybody here. First, I would like to dwell in a little bit of some of the discussions that were on since the beginning of this program. I believe that even before us, discussions were centered around how to finance smallholder farmers. And I believe it's been on for the past 50, 60 years. And here we are again, much later, discussing the same thing. So there must be something that is not thinking with the providers of finance and the utilizers of that funding. And I believe we're talking about the smallholder farmers, which contribute 60, 70% of the food we eat. And for me, for the past 50 years, when I look at my village, it hasn't changed. It's still the same. So if those are the ones that are providing the huge amount of money we spend on food, why are they still living in squalor? And I think these are issues that we need to look at. I would leverage on my brother's Minister of Kenya on the issue of going back to the farmer and see what the farmer really wants. In most times, they were viewed as the last mile. They are actually the first mile. So we need to leverage on that and see exactly what they want. There are linkages. Today, we find where food is produced. It's not necessarily where it is processed, and it's not necessarily where it is consumed. So there are linkages along those lines. And I believe infrastructure plays a very, very vital role in trying to make sure that there is a seamless transition between production and consumption. And that would help in reducing food prices, which is what is actually affecting most of Africa today. Food security is the danger that we see. I have not heard anybody talk about growing population. I've heard about population, but nobody is talking about the rate at which population is growing. Nigeria, of course, I don't want to talk about population because Nigeria is a classic example of population growth. 25 years ago, we were half the population of what we are today. And it is expected that by 2050, Nigeria will be 400 million people. Now, if I look at 25 years ago, that was just like yesterday. And 2050 is 25 years from now. So it means it's tomorrow. What have we been doing in trying to capture that huge demon that is looking at us, that is both a challenge and also an opportunity. A challenge in the sense that we have young people that because of the way we're treated agriculture, they're not going into agriculture, but they're going elsewhere. But then they want to feed. They want to eat food as well. So who will do that for them? That's the biggest challenge. Infrastructure is very vital. We have a lot of water bodies that have been, like I said, 50 years ago, most of them were built from 50 years ago down to recently, some like Kashimbila Dam, that aid in, agricultural production. But it's been neglected. There's no maintenance. A lot of our dams are silted, riverways are silted, and something serious needs to be done. In addition, I just want to mention the wonderful works of the African Development Bank. They have the program that is being funded majorly by AFDB, that is called the SAPZ, the Special Agro-Processing Zone, that is will be the game changer, where they're going to provide infrastructure zones in peri-urban areas with production, aggregation, storage, and processing, which will aid all the linkages that I've been talking about. So it's a first phase is about a $500+ million, and I think the second stage is probably attract $2.5 billion, and that's really a big game changer in that respect.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the audience just because I want to get you ready for this, because the Minister of Agriculture for Eswatini wanted to know about a common monetary system. Could that work? Who knows about common monetary systems, banking, money? Put your hand up, because I'd love to have a knowledge exchange with you. And come to the microphone. Any bankers in the room? This is the problem. We do not have the knowledge in the room, but I will make sure I get to it. If you have a question as well, please stand by the microphones, and then we will continue to Sierra Leone. Minister Packer, so good to have you here. We're talking about current results. What would you like to share with us from Sierra Leone, which is about how you are supporting your smallholder farmers? What would you like to share that maybe we can even use as a model?
Great. Thank you for having us. I want to thank African Development Bank and the partners for having us here, including the government and the Honorable Minister for hosting us. In Sierra Leone, specifically with regards to finance, some 3 years ago, or I guess 4 now, at the height of COVID, a lot of countries were hurrying up to buy essential commodities that they didn't have then. And so they set up these facilities for traders, commercial traders, to quickly buy your rice, all the essentials, and that they could sell. We then thought at the moment, well, hang on, we can't just be importing, we also need to produce. So can we have this facility for agriculture? And so then there was a facility set up narrowly for just for seeds and fertilizer for the rice value chain. Went successful in one sense, in that the handful of people that got the money was $10 million at the time, single digit interest rates. The handful of people that got the money paid back. We studied that and we thought, okay, there's expressed interest in this, and so we need to do more. So when in my role as minister a year and a half ago, we said, okay, let's revamp this. We took two layers of this. First, it was a very short-term loan. You took the money for agriculture's 90 days. You can't really do that, but because it was fertilizer, you could sell and get your money. We said, okay, that's fine, that works. But if you wanted to actually cultivate, if you wanted to set up a factory, you couldn't use that money. So one of the revamping we wanted to do was to say, let's extend this for the maturity to be 3 years. Let's have 90-day grace period, and let's keep it at single digits. We didn't succeed, it's 10%, but the commercial rates now is 38%. Big deal. This was last year we set it up. Now, we got 5 times the amount of people that got the money the first time. And they've invested, some of them have really invested some really game-changing sort of areas. Last Wednesday, I just went to commission the first ever commercial grade feed mill for poultry. Now, a lot of the people that were successful in getting this were the middle sort of players along, if you take any value chain, not your typical smallholder. And so this guy that, this organization set up a poultry feed mill. Very important. The lesson there for us was, okay, this guy quickly is going to need a lot of maize to feed this. Are the smallholder farmers that make up a majority of this, do they have credit? Can they basically be able to supply this? So what we had done, we'd been and in all of these facilities, we were very targeted. We had said, okay, and this, for better or for worse, maybe by luck or whatever, but we had set up a matching grants facility specifically for smallholders who wouldn't qualify, who banks wouldn't give this loan to, even though we said it was both movable and immovable collaterals. One of the challenges, they just want to have their collateral and all of that. So because of our matching grant facilities, smallholder farmers could also now get resources to grow a lot of maize and invest in dryers, because this feed mill needs dry maize. The moisture content has to be a certain level for them to pick it up. So for me, this is just one example, and there are a number of them. But I think this really got us thinking back to say, okay, we've done this, it worked well, but there's a lot of people in the ecosystem. That's just one value chain. You can take rice, the story is similar. A lot of rice millers took to be able to bring rice mills. And so now we're thinking, can we, this is the third iteration of this, can we set up a fund, ag bank or something that also takes care of insurance, so that if you are a smallholder and then your crop fails, you're not afraid. By the way, some smallholders are afraid to go take credit. This is also one thing I haven't had yet, but they are, because they don't want to be debtors and cannot pay, right? So we say, can we add that to it? So we're in the process of, we will reach out to some of the partners here of establishing, whether it's a bank or a specific fund much bigger than we've done, that will look at all the actors, not just one, but be tailored to a few value chains, all the actors, and add insurance to that, and capacity building, so that we can really make sure the money that goes in works and we can see that results.
I want to ask you, ministers, please do stand on the microphone if you have a question, or you can speak to the ministers over lunch. I want to ask you, ministers, that question about a common monetary system, would that make how you're supporting smallholder farmers easier if there was one common monetary system? Minister Chiari.
Would you try and say monetary system among states or among countries, or what?
Minister, when you asked about that, why did you ask? What did you feel? How do you feel it would help?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why.
Bring it closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's because, I've just heard people talking about how you have a MasterCard, for instance, and the other systems of moving money around helped the smallholder farmers. What I'm coming from is a bigger picture. The picture, for instance, of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We need to be able to sell goods around, or move goods between countries. And I can tell you now, one of the biggest impediments or constraints are the currencies that we use.
Okay.
So that's what I was talking about. And it's a long-term sort of strategy that we need to work on, so that we are able to move goods and services around within Africa. We're using currencies that will work for us. We all know that if I have to pay him, for instance, I must first go to, the dollar,
so,
whatever. That's what I'm talking about.
As the minister was speaking, I think one of the things that came to my mind when I heard you ask that question, it has to do with trade, but also financial regulations, so that we can be able to, in places where there can be places where there's more credits than others, and to the extent our currencies are a stumbling block, that can help in that regard. We do have, I think the Francophone countries are quite good in terms of currency. ECOWAS was still lagging behind. We talked about integration and convergence for the longest time before the EU did. We still haven't done that. But I think that's really where, if the financial systems are opened up and these regulations, then it can allow us to benefit and make credit available in places where they are needed, but otherwise, because of regulation, are not possible.
Company Secretary Kagwe, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think that is a great idea from my colleague. But I think that before we get to a common monetary system, we have got so many things that we can do to ease the trade between ourselves. We were sharing earlier with my colleague from Nigeria, Senator from Nigeria, Minister, that even before the monetary system kicks in, it is so difficult. We are sending our Kenyan flowers to Amsterdam for Nigeria to import. It tells you that long before we get into the major and more complicated systems, there are simple things that we can do. The sanitary and phytosanitary conditions put against us, against each other, that we have put against each other, are higher than the sanitary and phytosanitary measures that have been put by the European Union against us. So I think that the debate that we should be having initially, at least, before we get into what my brother is saying, which is the end of that whole chain, is how do we ease very quickly through administrative regulatory frameworks, how to trade faster and easier with each other. And I think that is so crucial for the small scale farmers. So if we can get that straight, we can then move on up the chain to, common currencies, common monetary structures, and common central banks, and so on.
Minister Hamza, go ahead.
Merci, Madame le modérateur, pour emboîter un peu le pas, parce que nous parlons de financement des petits exploitants agricoles. C'est vrai que parler vite de problème d'argent, ce serait aussi aller trop vite, mais le problème aujourd'hui, le financement qu'on doit donner à nos petits agriculteurs, c'est la question infrastructurelle, comme disait mon collègue de ministre du Nigeria. La plupart, 99% des petits exploitants sont dans les zones rurales. Dans les zones rurales, pour accéder, avoir de l'engrais, avoir des pesticides, avoir tout ça là, il faut d'abord qu'il y ait cette infrastructure routière, avoir les internets, tout ça là. S'il n'y a pas l'infrastructure, quel qu'en soit le financement qu'on donne aux agriculteurs, ça n'aboutira à rien. Donc la base, c'est d'abord le développement des infrastructures dans son ensemble, et plus particulièrement les infrastructures routières, tel est le cas de mon pays, ou bien sur 1000 et quelques kilomètres, il y a pratiquement rien. Mais les producteurs, les petits producteurs se trouvent à 1000 quelques kilomètres. C'est pourquoi nous avons discuté avec la BAD, qui a financé un projet aujourd'hui chez nous, où un projet à hauteur de 30 et quelques milliards, ou bien 50% de l'enveloppe totale est dédiée aux infrastructures rurales, pour désenclaver d'abord les petits exploitants agricoles, d'avoir accès aux d'autres produits qui doivent concourir à l'être, c'est-à-dire de jouir de leurs produits agricoles. Voilà à peu près ce que je voulais dire, ajouter sur la proposition. Merci.
So I have a question for all of you ministers, which is, you explained some very clunky business that is being done in agriculture. For instance, flying flowers to Amsterdam to be flown to Nigeria. But you're agriculture ministers. Why don't you stop it? I see nodding. I'm not understanding what you need to do to change it. You've told us about simple fixes, but maybe they're not quite simple. Am I being oversimplistic? Minister, please.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'm very happy that I've approached this subject, because that's exactly what I intended us to do, so that we can have the crucial conversations about the things that we need to do between ourselves as African countries. And what my colleague from Kenya is saying is correct. And that is why I used the word long term in terms of the common monetary system. But the immediate things that we need to do is to intensify trade within ourselves. And to answer your question, and we have not done that. So I'm saying let's do it. We have all these agreements and everything, but the examples have already been put on the table. To answer your question, it's exactly the conversations we must have. It's because we have not had the conversations that need to be had. And we've not looked within ourselves. We've always looked elsewhere for our progression as an African continent. We should look within. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Betty Kibara. I'm a director at the Rockefeller Foundation, and I work to increase access to more nutritious foods for school feeding programs in different countries. My question is to Honorable Mutahi Kagwe. Very exciting to hear your priorities about fertilizer and soils. And Kenya actually launched the National Agroecology Strategy last year, which has costed us, I think, 26 billion. My question is, to what extent are you going to incorporate organic fertilizers and bio-inputs, which have really been commercialized in the last, couple of years? I think it should be interesting to get your view. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Now, two things. First, let me respond to two things at the same time, if you don't mind. The first one has to do with the first question you asked, Why is it that we are sitting as ministers of agriculture and not, and we are talking about the problem that exists? I think one of them is because, you know, you need to appreciate a problem in order for you to solve it. Okay. I don't think we have ever looked at it like a problem. We have been looking outside of us to see whether we can develop. It has dawned on us that outside there is no solution for us. The solution is here, you know, and it is us. So if something is going wrong, we have to take the responsibility for it. If I can't export my flowers, if I can't export my flowers to Nigeria, it is not because of anything else. It's because the Nigerian minister won't allow me to export it.
So Nigeria. Nigeria is sitting next to you. We can fix this.
And if he can't export maize into Kenya, it is because I am the one who is stopping him. So we need to work together much more closely than we have ever done in the past.
Yeah.
And we need to open new windows and new structures of cooperation within the Africa Free Trade area, you know, and also bilaterally between ourselves. And that scares a lot of people out there. So if wedges are going to be put in between, don't be surprised. Secondly, to do with the organic fertilizer and the inputs that we are using in our in the farming system. One of the challenges that we have had with the fertilizer, and I would like to explain to our colleagues that the way that we have structured the distribution of fertilizers is essentially via a voucher system, an e-voucher system. So you are notified on your mobile phone how much fertilizer has been allocated to you, and you go and you take the voucher to the cooperative. We are going to start working the cooperatives, or to NCPB and the National Cereals and Produce Board, and you get your fertilizer from them. But one of the challenges we have had is the fact that farmers want to use the fertilizers they have been used to all the years that they have used fertilizers. So that if you are used to a chemical fertilizer, you know, CAN or whatever, then that is what the farmer is insisting on getting. And there is going to take some education to get the farmers to accept A, the correct fertilizers as a result of soil analysis, and B, the better fertilizer because of organic farming, and also ensuring that our foods are higher priced because of organic fertilizers rather than chemical fertilizers. So there's work cut out for us.
Okay. Ministers.
I just have
honorable ministers.
Can I
thank you.
1 minute?
You can have
1 minute.
20 seconds.
Okay. I think we're moving away we're getting distracted.
Okay.
The issues that were mentioned earlier has to do with trade. And I believe the African Continental Free Trade Agreement was out there to solve some of these pertinent issues that have been there lingering for so many years, since when, you know, we've had our independence. What I'm here for in Nairobi for the first time is how do we get those items to be produced by the smallholder farmers? How do we assist them? How do we fund them? Because what I see here, whether it's from outgrowers, which is they're doing wonderfully well in my country, whether it's from aggregators, FX, and things like that, whether it's from MasterCard, funding commercial farmers on, you know, that have outgrower systems that are recovering 99 to 100%. Every funding stops at a cycle. It's from planting to harvest. How do you support the smallholder farmer to grow and invest multi-year financing?
So that is the thought we're going to keep in our minds as we go through the rest of today and through tomorrow as well. Ministers, you're not going anywhere, are you?
No,
you're not leaving today.
No, we're not leaving.
So we have your knowledge in the room, and we will use your knowledge over lunch to eat lunch and then talk more about it. Because
10 seconds.
You are brilliant, and we could be here for 2 days breaking this down. So I am going to respectfully ask your permission to call the lunch break. We will take a beautiful photograph here, and our conversation continues about how we can help smallholder farmers in Africa after lunch through lunch and onto tomorrow. Ministers, you've given us so much to think about, and we thank you. Honourable Ministers, thank you so much.